right, well, it looks like there's still a few people trickling in, but I might just go ahead and start to give the introductions and we can go from there. Um, so I am Jordan Stobie, ED for Pandion, and NIE is here as well, who's program associate. And then we've got Yvette with us here. We're very excited about to talk about sync licensing and her experience in the entertainment business and film and TV industry, and how we can all get our music placed and work towards that goal if that is one of our goals as a musician. Um, and I'm just going to give a little background on Pandion for anybody who's new here. Pandion Music Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit that equips emerging music creators around the world with tools to help foster more equitable, attainable, and sustainable careers. And we're based in Los Angeles, but we're global and we amplify diverse voices to grow more inclusive music industry by providing free weekly online workshops and wellness initiatives that connect independent musicians with leading professionals. We run these workshops once a week online so that it's accessible or they're accessible to anybody across the world. And we also run other initiatives throughout the year. So in June, we ran our first teen music camp for teens, I think was between the ages of 15 through 18, so high school age, from the LA area, specifically under-resourced communities from LAUSD schools. Um, and that was really cool. We were able to give them hands-on experience in a recording studio for 3 days, and we plan to do that again next year and other events similar for youth. And we're really love to emphasize this community that we've built through the workshops, and all of you. We hope that you talk to each other and network and communicate, collaborate, and really make use of this community. If you're looking for anyone to join your team, if you need a producer or a songwriter to work with, there's lots of amazing musicians in our Pandion community that you can connect with. So we urge you to drop comments in the chat, say hi to people. We also have a creators circle, which is on Facebook. It's a private Facebook group that you can join and use that as a platform for more collaboration and chats with other people in our community. And we love being able to host these workshops to help, like I mentioned in our mission, it's really to break down the barriers between leading professionals and emerging artists so that to kind of get rid of those barriers that prevent information from being shared. And especially as you're trying to build a career as an emerging artist, sometimes it can feel overwhelming, like there's not really one source for information or reliable sources. So we like to offer this and bring on amazing professionals like Yvette here, who can share their experiences, and hopefully you can take something from that and use it in your own growth as an artist. So I will give a little background on Yvette and her career, and then Yvette, if you want to kind of fill anything in from there, you can do
Sure.
so to start us off. So Yvette started her career in the film and TV music industry as an assistant and later as a music coordinator on a number of critical darlings, including the Emmy Award-winning AMC series Breaking Bad, which many of us probably know, as well as the equally compelling follow-up Better Call Saul and zombie apocalypse ratings juggernaut The Walking Dead. In 2020, Yvette founded Sounds in Color LLC, which I would love to talk to you more about that. And her recent work can be seen in the thrilling Amazon holiday feature film Candy Cane Lane, starring Eddie Murphy and Tracy Ellis Ross. And she is currently co-music supervises the smash hit um, Amazon original series The Boys and its equally exciting spinoff series Gen V. In addition, she supervises the compelling Fox drama series The Cleaning Lady and the comedic drama series Tyler Perry's Sisters. And then as a complement to her career, she also focuses on community support and volunteering and is a member of the Guild of Music Supervisors, and member of the Television Academy Music Peer Group. If any of you are not familiar with those groups, those are great communities as well that you can join. And I recommend looking them up. Um, Maybe we can drop little links to those as well in the chat for people. That'd be great. So yeah, we can start there. Yvette, thank you again for joining. And if you want to maybe give a little background on like how you got into music to begin with, I'll invite everyone again to, if you have questions, just feel free to raise your virtual hand at any point throughout the conversation, if something comes up for you, or just pop it in the chat and we can get to it when there's time. So yeah, so if we want to start there, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you for the amazing introductory, Jordan. That was great. And I don't know what I could add beyond that. But yeah, I started off as an assistant, really an intern because I wasn't getting paid initially on the show Breaking Bad, came on board season 2. I don't have a technical music background. I was just a lover of music growing up. Was a lover of television growing up, probably watched too much television and listened to too much music, if you ask my parents. But, here we are. I interned at NBC Studios for a while, and from there was hired as a production coordinator for a reality TV series, and that was really my first sort of foray into TV production, and had been doing that for about 7, 8 years, just working on set. And during that time, I was introduced to somebody whose responsibility, their job was to find music and include them in bumpers for an entertainment news program called Access Hollywood. So their job was to find songs and place them in between news segments for that show. And so when I heard about it, I said, that's exactly what I would want to do. And but at the time, the term music supervisor wasn't that popular. People didn't really know that was a job yet. And so it was a little bit difficult for me to sort of break into that world. However, as luck would have it, some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not, but there was another writer's strike that had happened about 15 or so years ago, and everything shut down at that time. And so that left me out of work. And I said to myself, I'm in Los Angeles. There's got to be some sort of course or, university that's teaching classes on music supervision or music and business, and discovered a course at UCLA, which is how I met the person who I ended up working for. His name is Thomas, and he's with a company called Super Music Vision. So after that course, he had announced that he was looking for an assistant. And so I raced home and put together my resume and made a nice little mixtape, and sent it in, and was hired. So that was sort of the way that I broke in on the music side. I think if you ask any music supervisor, we're all going to have a different story on how we sort of broke in. There is no tried and true rule. I think it just depends on how bad you want it, if that is something that you're interested in, and just like not give up, because there are ways to make it happen. And so yeah, from there, just worked as an assistant, then sort of graduated up to being a coordinator, to a co-music supervisor, and then leading the dance on my own as a music supervisor. And have had, some successful opportunities. I did strike out on my own 4 years ago, and started my own company. And Jordan, if you want to sort of go into that process a little bit later, I'm happy to kind of talk about that. But that's sort of my backstory.
Cool. Amazing. Yeah, I think a lot of our community here are creators and musicians, but I'm always interested to hear how the supervisors and then other professionals that we have on our workshops get into their professions, just because as musicians, we all know it's sometimes a balancing act and trying to figure out what to do as your moneymaker and then also balancing music at the same time. So if people are interested in the business industry side as a career, I'm always interested in our guests talking about that a bit more in case people want to pursue that themselves. I'm curious if anybody has done music supervision or is interested in getting into music supervision a bit. Pop in the chat if you have any experience with that or would like to get into it more, because we can cover that a bit more. Um, but yeah, I think that I've heard a lot about um, starting as, I mean, in most professions, I think this is kind of the way it goes, but starting as an assistant or some apprentice in a way, and then learning more about it that way, which it seems like you also did that.
Yep.
What did you learn during your time as like an apprentice? What were the main things that made you realize that was the path you wanted to go down and excite you about the job?
I have to say that working as a production coordinator on set really was a gift going into music supervision. I think everyone has some taste in music, right? It's all subjective. People like to listen to it for enjoyment. Um, so that's sort of half of the gig is the music aspect. The other 50% is really like how organized you are and how well you communicate with other people. And both of those are very, very, very important, because, there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of legalities on the line. The studio and the production company are relying on us, to make sure that the music that we're using is cleared and there's no legal issues that arise. So, I mean, there is a lot at stake. And even to get to the point of clearing music, you really have to be able to communicate clearly what you're looking for, and be able to do it in a way that's personable to the folks that you're dealing with. And that goes with, folks on the music licensing side. So those are label reps, publishing reps, but we're also dealing with studio executives. We're dealing with production executives and showrunners. And we're also dealing with, ancillary um, uh, uh, team members of production. So we're communicating with editors, with music editors, composers. So you really have to have a personality that um, offers a little bit of grace under pressure, and who just has a way of interfacing with people that is not so off-putting that, you know, in essence, we're all sort of we're needing each other to get stuff done. And, just because it's a symbiotic relationship, you just have to really be able to engage with other people the way that you would want them to, engage with you. It's all collaboration.
Yeah, sounds like a big team effort. Lots of different players.
Yeah.
Um, what does your like day to day look like in your job? I like to get a little bit more of like nitty gritty for people that might be interested in getting into it because I have heard from some music supervisors that the job is like when they get in it, it's different than they thought it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, on the glamorous side of music supervision, again, is the music. It's like finding that cool song that does amazing things in the scene. And that is what brings most of us joy. Like when we can land that, amazing song moment in a film or a TV series or a trailer. Um, uh, that really feels like icing on the cake once you get to that point. Um, but I would say a day in the life is probably a little bit less glamorous than that. Usually, when you start your day, you go into your email and there's already like 50 emails waiting for you to respond to, and that's not an exaggeration. Um, There are multiple emails from companies, again, that we work with, labels and publishers that are sending like general email blasts of music that they want us to check out, or, artists that they're promoting at the time. And then just getting emails back from, again, production. They may have a request where they're looking for music, hey, we're working on this scene right now. We don't have picture to show you yet, but we're just looking for some spitball music ideas. Can you send some songs over? So that's like one thing, that we have to add to the list, to do. And then in the meantime, there may be some clearances that are in process. So there may be, a licensor that has sent an email where they're looking for more information about the type of scene that we're requesting for, requesting a song for. Is there violence? Is there sex? Is there drug use? Is there nudity? Is there any sort of political angle that might rub our client the wrong way? So there's just those types of engagements, those emails that we get throughout the day that we have to address. Um, then we're also focusing on our budgets. For each project, we're given a certain dollar amount that we have to keep in mind as we're planning planning the songs that we're using. And how we do that is we also receive scripts, and we read the scripts and sort of look for potential music moments in those scripts and try to budget accordingly. And then likewise, just sort of circling back to the scenario where a team member is looking for music for a scene, we also have to keep in mind what is the budget that we're going to allocate for that scene? How much do we want to spend? Because that will dictate what type of songs we're pitching, whether it's very, very low cost money, from a production music library, or a sync agent, or if we have enough money to put something, a song in from top 40, on Spotify's chart, something like that. So there's always multiple levels that we're sort of dealing with just on a daily basis. And it usually involves, again, like receiving emails and responding to them, checking our budgets, maintaining schedules that we're delivering on time. So there's a lot of moving pieces throughout the day that we're responsible for. But it keeps, it keeps the day going relatively quickly. So
Yeah. Yeah, and it must be even more rewarding when you actually finish a project and see it all come together at the end after all that work that goes into it
absolutely.
behind the scenes. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Do you use Disco to accept music from artists? And do you work with independent artists very often? Speaking of budgets, I guess that would be a question.
Yeah, I do use disco. I sort of crossed over about, I think, 3 years ago now. I was a little bit hesitant for like the first 3 or 4 years, but finally made the decision to go in, which I'm
Mhm.
happy about. I think there's a lot of positives about it. Just a way to quickly and easily receive music and share music, without having to go through that process of downloading and then re-uploading, to my own system. With that being said, I do still have a hard drive, and I do still download music to that drive, just in case, as a backup, in case, internet goes down,
Mhm.
or, I lost Wi-Fi, or, it's also, I still appreciate the way the music database is laid out. I use a program also called Swinzian, which is sort of my music storage database, which has a similar interface to the old iTunes and the new Apple Music. It's just not as fancy with the artwork. But I like to be able to see like the full track name and the artist name, and sometimes disco, I feel like, is limited the way it's formatted on their sheet. So I like to use both. But both are very helpful. I use them both every day. Again, just to store my music and to send and receive. And I do work with independent artists. It can be a little bit challenging because, again, just the volume of emails I receive It makes it a little bit tricky to offer feedback to, an independent artist if I'm dealing directly with them. I usually will advise an independent artist to work with a sync agent, which is a fairly new term over the last few years. A sync agent is responsible for helping to get music synced. And the benefit of a sync agent is that they have relationships with multiple music supervisors. So it wouldn't be just me that an independent artist would be interfacing with. If they were working with a sync agent, that sync agent may have a connection to 40 music supervisors who are working on all different projects. Um, so I do use sync agents a lot and have good relationships with them. And I think if that was a direction that, some of the folks here might want to explore, I would just do a quick Google search for sync agents, maybe different cities, not that location really matters these days, but then just get a sense of what productions they've licensed music for. Normally, like on their splash page, they'll have like a list of shows or films. And then maybe reach out and just interview them. What do you need from me to be a client of yours? How do you get paid? Do you take a percentage of publishing? Is there a finite time period that you would represent my work? Can we work together for a year? Is it 5 years? I would just interview them. A lot of them do have good relationships with a lot of us. So, I think it's definitely something worth considering for an independent artist. It's tough to break in. I totally understand it. Music supervisors generally are just slammed because we are working on so many projects that it's really tough to consistently maintain the lines of communication as much as we want to. But on at those moments that we do receive music, for myself, I'll say, like, if you do send me, a song, keep the link open as long as you can, because I might not respond right away. It could be months, it could even be a year, but usually we'll keep the music on hand until that moment comes where we finally find an opportunity and we can come back and reach back out to you. So just a few tidbits of hopefully helpful information.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's good to remember to just be patient as an artist, that not all these opportunities are going to come in right after you send like the initial email or connection with someone. But yeah, we have we've had quite a few sync agents on as guests for our workshops as well, and we definitely promote that as an option for people. I
Great.
think as an artist, you have a certain amount of energy to put towards your work, and you would hope that most of that is being put towards the art. So I think sometimes it's good to have some people on your team to help out with the other side of things. Um, and yeah, I think we've met many amazing agents who are doing great work too and can help with that stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
especially on the business side, I'll just say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
yeah.
you off, but like,
No, no,
especially on
you
the
didn't.
side, it's like, if you want to just deal with the creative side, like, have someone else make sure, your splits are in order. And, if you have co-writers, that, all of that is taken care of before it even comes to us, because that's like one of the major sort of hair pulling moments is if somebody pitches a song and it happens to be a cover, right? And they're claiming that they control the song, 100%, but it's a cover, or they want an arrangement, of the new cover version. Those are all things that a sync agent, can help out with and just sort of talk through the process. And so that way if you're not sure, or if you're just, too engrossed in the music portion of it, they can sort of handle that, on your behalf. Because I can say that one thing that does get under a music supervisor's skin is if they're receiving music and the metadata is not there. If the contact information is not there, it's a little bit easier now for disco, but or with disco, but like if there's no contact information and we love the song, who are we going to reach out to? So that's like rule number one. But and then just making sure that, ownership is all secured and tied in a bow, and a seek agent can help out with that. If it's not right the first time and you're introducing yourself to a music supervisor and there's something that sort of goes off, that's probably going to be the last opportunity that you have with that one person. So it's almost like an interview. You want to come with your best foot forward and your best presentation. And, one of the ways to do that is just to make sure that, the music that you're pitching, the metadata is accurate. It looks great. It's easy to read, and that your business part of it is also in tip-top shape.
Yeah, those are great tips. Somebody asked also, do you have any agencies that you could recommend that you work with yourself that you've had a good experience with?
I mean, there's several. There's several, and I'll name a couple. Usually, I don't, but I'll name a couple that I've had good experience with. One is Friendly Fire. Um, let's see. There's Think Music, which is another one. And then there's also, production music libraries too, which can be helpful. Crucial Music has always been great working with. And the one thing that I like, one of many things I like about Crucial, and all of the ones that I'm mentioning, is that they do their homework, which is also important for an independent artist to do. Like, know who you're reaching out to, what are the projects that they're working on currently, how does your music relate to, the music that they're pitching for, on these projects. Like if you specialize in country music, it may not work pitching to someone who's working on a punk based, a show that's got punk music. Um, and sometimes, and I'm not even joking, but I think we were 3 years beyond the end of Breaking Bad, and someone had reached out to offer music for the show, even though the show had already ended. So it's really about like just doing your homework and just knowing who you're reaching out to, because it's all about time. Time is of the essence, and it's precious. And, it's like you just want to have your best foot forward and not waste your time. And, the music supervisor doesn't have a lot of time to spare. So you want to strike, when you have that moment.
Yeah, that would be very important to, and that takes a little back end work, but I think if you just narrow down like your top choices for agencies and do that work and then reach out and follow up politely if you don't hear back in a while. But yeah, it does take some time, I think, for people just because they're getting so bombarded, agencies as well,
Yeah.
the same way that supervisors are. So, um, and some agencies I know don't take unsolicited submissions of music. So sometimes it's good to go to events like or online workshops like this that are offered, try to meet people from the agencies, and have like face to face. And then it's more of like you have already kind of a step in a sense. So that can be helpful. Um, and we actually did, speaking of Crucial, we had Dan from Crucial on as a guest a few months ago, I think. I can't even remember when that was now, but we have the replay up on our website. So if anyone's curious about Crucial music, you can check that out and see. Dan's so great and such a nice person, and shared some great information about the agency. So if you're curious about that, you can feel free to check it out on our website. Um, Somebody asked if you choose music through source audio, if that's something you work with. Um, oh, I think you might be muted actually. But
There we go. I could not unmute myself. Sorry about that.
No worries. No
Um,
worries.
you know, I'm not against source audio. I just haven't been di uh directed to use it other than I know there are a lot of companies that have a source audio account. So I do visit some of their source audio sites to search for music. If that answers the question, like I myself don't have one. I don't use it for any sort of storage, but I do access source audio because a lot of companies that I work with use it to host their music, and so I will do searches on those databases. Hopefully that helps.
Great. If you have any follow-up questions on that, Gil, feel free to pop it in the chat. Someone asked about PROs. I'm curious. So they said, how do you deal with licensing songs with smaller indie artists who don't have songs registered for publishing and PROs? And yeah, if you want to answer that question, that would be
Sure.
great.
I have experience licensing from artists that don't have songs registered. I would recommend registering them only because, you know, the role of a PRO is to keep track of money that may be owed to you so that you don't have to do it yourself. And you know, the three major ones out of the US are ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. GMR is rapidly growing as well. I believe that ASCAP, you have to be invited to be a member, but I think BMI, you don't. Anyone can correct me if that's not the case. Um, but it's just a way to help keep track of your royalties. And typically, you know, for films and for television, we have to submit a cue sheet at the end of each. For television, it's at the end of each episode. For film, it's when the film is done. And those cue sheets get submitted to the PROs. And then the PROs and the publishers are communicating with each other. And so that's how the royalties get issued out. If a writer is not registered, then it's just up to them just to chase the money themselves. And, you know, that can be a little bit of a tedious process.
Yeah, that's great to know. I think these days it seems like most artists have who are working in especially, I guess, I think working in sync or involved in sync in some way have signed up with PROs. And it's relatively easy to sign up to many of
Yeah.
them. So yeah. I've got a question here. I'm gonna unmute you. Let's go ahead and feel free to pop in.
Oh, that was me. Yay.
Hello.
Um, I am so grateful for this conversation. I've actually been a fan of your work and found out about your work through one of my mentors named Tuff Morgan from Pure Music
Yeah.
Group.
Yeah.
And
Great.
yeah, I love the stuff that you did with Candy Cane Lane, and I'm interested in what you're going to be doing with the doc series. Um, I do have a question. I've talked to multiple supervisors, and I've always asked them this question. Do you have that one song that you felt so strongly about that you were able to put in a project? And if so, what was that song?
Oh,
Question.
good question. Um, I feel like there's a few, but let me flip it for you. One of the ones that I think will always stick out to me would have been the first one that I ever got. And that sort of boosted my confidence to feel like, okay, I can do this. And the name of the artist is Timber Timbre. He's from Canada, and he's sort of uh, a almost a David Lynch sort of vibe, but like a swamp blues sort of a rock artist. And there's a scene in season 2 of Breaking Bad where Walt is underneath the house in the crawl space. And um, generally at that time when we were pulling music for any scenes, it was pretty democratic. So we'd all be in our offices and we were pulling music, and then we'd come together for a meeting and we'd play all of our options, and then we'd collectively whittle down to like our top five, and those five would be the ones to get sent to production. And Thomas, my boss at the time, like he's just a brilliant music supervisor, like knows so much about music. And I'm like hearing his options and I'm thinking like, oh shoot, there's like no way I'm gonna beat these. And then they ended up choosing it. And I have to admit, it did work really, really well. I'm trying to remember the name of the dog on track. You'll have to let me come back, or I'll pop it in the chat because I'm totally blanking right now because I'm on the spot. But the name of the artist is Timber Timbre, and he's really cool artist. I would recommend checking him out in general. Just a very different, unique sound.
Cool. Thanks for that question. That was a great question. Yeah, it's nice to hear those like specific kind of case studies of music getting placed and how that magic happens. Yeah, it's interesting. Um, um, some people have been asking if you are looking for a specific type of music right now, or if you usually, whatever projects you're working on currently, if there's something specific you're leaning towards.
Well, let's see. I am starting season 4 of The Cleaning Lady, which is a Fox series. And we've changed showrunners, which is a huge deal. And we're pivoting a little bit story-wise. Like they're sort of changing up a lot of aspects about the show, including music. So I think the differences are going to be that we're going to start trying songs that come out of the left field a little bit, that aren't so like in your face for anyone who has seen it. Like we tended to go sort of straight down the middle with some of our song choices, which was generally the directive, from above. And like we go really emotional during emotional moments, or if there were like dangerous moments, we'd go with, danger sort of songs. Now I think there will be moments where we can sort of play counterpoint to that and just try different angles to tackle different experiences in the show. And so counterpoint, I'm sure everyone knows, but in case there's someone who doesn't, it would be an example would be like if we see someone getting if someone's getting into a fight, right, and it looks like there's a lot of dangerous things happening, we might play like a really pleasant song, a song that generally would make you smile, while all this danger and destruction is happening, on screen. So I'm excited about it because we hadn't really had opportunities to do that in the earlier seasons. And uh, so right now I'm just sort of compiling some just different thoughts and concepts to sort of pitch those ideas to production just to see if we're in the right pocket or not. But yeah, so that'll be the one that I'll be spending most of my time with, from now through early next year.
Cool. That'll be interesting to see how that affects the show, because I feel like music obviously has such an impact on the feel of a show. So if the music is changing slightly, and with those scenes being kind of like contrasting, I guess, between the music and the scene, it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah.
I always like shows that have like kind of that do that kind of thing, unexpected kind of choices and music. Yeah, be cool. Brandon has a question, just raised their hand. I'm gonna unmute. Hello, are you able to unmute yourself now? I'm not hearing anything yet.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, there we go.
All
Cool.
right, great, great, great. How you doing? How you guys doing today?
Doing
Good.
great.
Um,
Thanks for being here.
I don't really have a question or anything. I'm a composer that's, been able to work with Yvette. Yvette was awesome. I was able to work with her on Sisters a couple years back.
Yeah.
And she guided me through that process. And I just love the fact that, I was
Mm.
able to hit her up anytime, ask questions, you know what I'm saying? Like it was my first time ever working on a project of that magnitude, and she made it just so smooth for me. And hopefully anybody in this chat gets a chance to work with her to that capacity so you can get that experience, because that is the top one on my list, the top music supervisor on my list. So that's it. You salute to you, girl. Salute to you.
Oh, it's really sweet. Thank you,
Great.
Brandon. I hope you're doing great. And I felt the same, about you and was very impressed with what you delivered and your professionalism. So I would be thrilled to work with you again at some point.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's great. So nice to have
Oh,
those professional relationships that just click, work really well, and you can get a project completed, feel good about it. That's awesome. Thank you, Brandon.
no doubt.
Uh, I have a question from Jen. So I was actually going to transition maybe, and I wanted to hear a little bit more about Sounds in Color and what made you make that transition, and talk a little bit more about the company itself and your role there. But Jen also had a question about how often you need to seek out projects, or if you have projects kind of coming to you, and if that's not necessarily part of your job, that might go hand in hand with you running your own business.
Yeah, good question. I'll answer the second question first. I have been extremely fortunate in the last few years, despite COVID and despite the strikes, that to have been able to work through that. Um, it's sort of, I think the writing was on the wall for me at a point where I was starting to get calls or requests to do projects on my own and outside of the company. And so this would have been around 2018, 2019. And I, broached the subject with my boss at the time and just said, hey, these opportunities are coming. Are you cool with, me taking these? So it didn't feel like I was sort of going around or usurping, the company. And it worked out very well. I was able to, that's actually the point where I started working on Sisters. And that went very well. And then just slowly I was getting, other inquiries. And so I started to think about when might be the right time to make the move. But, I had been working for this company for 13 years at that point. And so I think there's a little bit of, moments where you kind of question your confidence and what you're, capable of doing. And so I remember telling myself, okay, well, 2021 is going to be the year. Like, I think it's going to be 2021. I feel like by then I will have been able to solidify relationships with some of the studios around, um, and we'll aim for that. And then COVID happened, and it sort of accelerated the transition. So I ended up starting my company in August of 2020. And the name Sounds in Color came about because at the time when I was making the decision to move on, for anyone here who is an Alabama Shakes fan or Brittany Howard, there is a song, I believe it's the name of their album, Sounds and Color, but there's a song of the same name, and that hook just stayed with me with Brittany singing it, and so I felt like it was meant to be. So that's how I came up with the name. It's from the Shakes, but it's the process of securing work has been relatively smooth for me. I do have an agent who's been great. And I think what has helped me thus far is that the shows that I've been working on have been renewed. And so it's really just the fact that they've repeated for a second, third, fourth season, so that I really haven't had to need a new project coming in. It's just been all, coming back for new seasons. So I've been fortunate thus far with that. We'll see what happens, in 25. I just, hope for the best and just keep, trying to do good work and keep people that hire you happy.
That's great. I love that story about Sounds in Color. They're one of my Brittany Howard's just such an amazing songwriter, and I actually just listened to a great interview with her like 2 weeks ago or so. Um, but yeah, if any of you need, she's gotten quite a few sync placements through with Alabama Shakes and I think solo as well. But yeah, if any of you want to check out her music as inspiration for what is syncable and a way, I think she does a really good job of this is like kind of a segue now, but she does a good job of kind of merging her artist side, like just what she wants to be writing and her sound, like her authentic sound with making it work in sync licensing too. Um, so she's a good one to look at if you need some references. But yeah, that's congratulations on now 4 years if you opened your company in 2020. That's great, exciting,
Yeah,
and
time flies. I can't
yeah.
even believe it's been that long.
Yeah, I feel like the past 4 years have gone by so fast, especially if you're busy and working on a lot of things. I'm just gonna let's see if there's any other questions I missed. Someone asked, oh yeah, what type of music do you not have enough of right now? Is there anything that you're missing?
I'll just throw it out there. If anyone happens to have covers performed by women of classic songs from the 80s, mid 90s, I'd say primarily 80s, mid 90s. And the reason being is that I co-music supervise, I think this was mentioned earlier, but a series called Gen V. And it's a series about college students who have superhero powers. Um, but it's also about sort of self-discovery, just much like college students, in their first year in school and, finding out who they are, how they relate to other people. But it is tied to the boys. And so if for anyone who's a fan of the boys and they know the Vought Corporation, well, that's also tied to Gen V as well. So there's like little sinister things happening on that show as well. But it's an ensemble cast, and we're really sort of promoting the voice of powerful women. And so we want the music to do that as well. So we're looking for either just high energy, indie rock, indie pop, female vocals, sort of like badass. There's a lot of fight scenes. There's also just like, chilling at college, hanging out with your friends, that sort of thing. So like music that they might be listening to in a dorm room or a sorority party, that sort of thing. So it may not be as badass, but still fun and like, vibey. But then we're also looking for like covers. So it'd be covers of like classic songs. So maybe it was a song originally by like the Rolling Stones, let's say. Well, what would be like a cool, interesting cover that's modern that sort of pays homage to that? So that's what we would be looking for. And we're sort of like in the punk world, certainly in rock. But the sweet spot would be like from the 80s to like the mid 90s, I would say.
Great, thank you. That I'm sure it looks like from the chat, it sparked a lot of ideas for people. That's great. It's good to know any specific music that you're looking for. I'm sure it's kind of hard sometimes because there's like so much variation and like so many factors at play too. So but yeah, that's cool. I feel like I've been hearing that a lot. Cover like supervisors looking for covers right now. And
Yeah.
maybe that's something that's been going on for a while too, but yeah, I think obviously a little bit less lucrative for the artists, but maybe potentially more, you have a better chance of actually getting a placement just because they're needed so often. So that can
Yeah,
be a
and
good
there's
road to go
different
down.
covers too. Not to step on you, and I apologize. You know, there's what was really popular in the last few years was like the trailerized versions covers that were sort of like, you know, ethereal or really dark. We're sort of the other end of the spectrum from that. That's not exactly what we would be looking for. But, you know, aside from covers, you know, like I said, just some like really fun, energetic, indie rock, indie pop, even punk, with female vocals would be fun. So, and yes, as far as covers go, they can be upbeat. And yes, they can be darker, but just not the trailer. There's like a really distinct sound of like trailer style cover songs. I think most people will know. You could probably look them up to really get a sense of what those sound like. So those would not be what we would be looking for. Um, uh,
Good to
so
know.
like not big and epic and orchestral. That's not what we would be looking for. But yeah, darker is cool. Yeah.
Cool. Amazing. Well, I've like lost track of time. That went by so fast.
God.
Um, but I actually forgot to mention this at the beginning of the call, but we do a certain additional little uh thing for the artists and musicians here that come to the workshops that have our supervisor guests on, where we allow one submission of a song that's mixed and mastered, ready to go, has all the metadata included. And we create a little playlist on Disco from those submissions. So only people who are here at the workshop get the opportunity to do that. Um, and then we can share that with you, Yvette, and then also, and you, there's no obligations around it at all, but if you're interested in hearing music that from our community.
Oh, awesome.
And then, yeah, and we also have that as a Disco has a, I think it's relatively new feature now that has like, there's a public discovery section. I'm not sure how many supervisors use it yet, but I think it hopefully has potential to grow. And we have all of our playlists on like a public library profile on Disco. So any other supervisors who use Disco and know about that discovery feature, they can find the playlist as well. So just make sure if you submit your song that it's completely ready to be synced, because this is essentially like a submission to the supervisors. So it should be ready to go. No demos or anything for this one. And it looks like NIE put the link in there. So feel free to copy that. And when we're finished with the call, you can submit there for that playlist. And it's fun to listen to, especially if the supervisors are able to give more of a specific what need for a project. Yeah, that's really helpful for that. So cool. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any last questions, but we just got a couple minutes left.
For the questions that we couldn't get to during the hour, Yvette will be doing the Ask Me Anything on our Creator Circle.
Great.
I'm just going to drop the link. If you're not part of the Creator Circle, just join a request and we'll accept your approval. And then you could go ahead and drop your questions there. Just since, yeah, time flew by.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Great.
do
Okay,
work with
perfect.
Spirit Music Group. So yes, I'm big fans. And yes, I do work with them. So kudos to Spirit Music.
Nice.
But
That's
thank
great
you
to
all
know.
so much. This was great. I love doing these, and I hope, you know, they were informative. Sometimes I'm not sure if it's like sharing information that most people know already, but it's always a pleasure for me. So I hope you guys got something out of it. And thanks for having me.
Great. Yeah,
much.
thank you so much. It was definitely very, very helpful. It's always good to hear, just even if it's information people have heard, I think it's always more specific to the person regardless. And so it's nice to just have, different input and different perspectives on things. There's always at least a couple gems in there. I can see like people like writing down notes when when something's said. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, if anyone else has any follow-up questions, make sure you go over to our Facebook group, and you can connect with us on all of our social media accounts. So don't hesitate. Yeah.
And I'll just say, if anyone is curious, the name of the song was called Magic Arrow by
Oh, great.
Amber. If anyone wants to play it, it may spark a memory of that scene, but that was the name of the song. It just hit
Oh,
me.
great. Perfect timing. Right at the end there. That's great. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for coming today, and send us your songs. Excited to listen and hear those. And then next week on Wednesday, which I think is the 2nd
Yes.
of October. Yeah, we've got the golden rules of songwriting and when to break them with Rebecca Powell. So if you're interested in that, you can join us. I think that's at 11 a.m. Is that right?
Yeah,
Pacific time?
11 a.m.
Great. Okay,
Great.
awesome.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
everyone. Thanks, Yvette.
Have a
Take
good day.
care.